A 2014 survey of 40 employees showed that 90% of individuals believe critical thinking is an important part of being successful in the workplace. On the flip side of this means lack of critical thinking could hinder your success in your job. Well, we are afraid so, sir. But don't worry, today in video we take about 15 ways to develop your critical thinking skill. So let's jump right in. Welcome to iPlus.com, the place where your future environments coming inspired. Number one, questions assumptions. There's no denying we assume one of a number of things the humans. We assume the workplace about the relationships and most importantly about ourselves. But Chickly Post says when you assume you make an ass out of me. While this may be quite a funny way to put it now the ring true. Making assumptions reduces the chances of innovations, but when you question their assumptions, it spirals into the extensive critical thinking process, which more often than obtains to lead to innovative ideas. Questions in your assumptions help you critically access everything you know, which Excel is a great tool for developing your critical thinking. Number two, become self-aware. When you become more self-aware, it simply means you become more aware of your beliefs, your thought process, your personality, your moral. But did you answer that becoming self-aware, you simultaneously be developing your critical thinking skills? That's right. As you objectively think of what you define your personalities, like your likes and dislikes, strengths and weaknesses, goals and dreams, you're honing your critical thinking skills, becoming self-aware will also help you see need to develop those critical thinking skills. Number three, adopt step-by-step process. In the 26th video, TEDx outlines 5 steps that can help you develop critical thinking or solve different kinds of problems. The first step is to understand and formulate your questions. This simply means that you understand that reason why you're making a certain decision, why behind your critical thinking. At this point, it is equally important to understand the biases and facts surrounding decisions. Next, you gotta gather information. This is basically a extension of the first process, but way more extensive. As that stage based on your understanding of your questions, you gather reliable information that could affect your decision. The next and most important step is applications. Here you got attention and apply everyone is covered. At this point, you have to start thinking critically by asking important questions. What values and concepts have you now adopted? Are you being illogical here? Have you made assumptions at any point? Your answers to big questions will help you find the underlying meanings behind your decision, which can affect or reinforce for your conclusions. Moving forward, the fourth step involves understanding the implication of your decision. So take an instance, you decide to pay $1,000 with a business class. What are the implications of that action if it don't go according to plans? Aside from losing $1,000, what are the chances that this class will help you land a well-paying job? In making a decision, always strive to consider the long-term and the short-term implications and more clearly. And finally, is ignore order for taking actions. Your POV is simply all one man so widen that fill up. Number 4, evaluate your mental process. Fun fact, the human mind works just like a computer. It collects and processes information. It can store in the information later used. That we were familiar how minds work doesn't suggest we can better understand inner works of our minds. Of course we can. You can study with your mind, receive and process information. That is how you react to certain situations. This understanding is a great way to become mentally efficient, and as you perhaps already guessed, mental efficiency is a necessary factor of critical thinking. and value your mental process also gives you the ability to properly analyze situations before making decisions. Number 5, ask questions. When you are not too sure about something, you don't practically understand something, ask questions. You luxury. Asking questions is no doubt one of the best ways to get information at. It could be personal search engines, but it matters most in the fact you made efforts to learn, which is itself is necessary for critical thinking. However, it's not completely about asking a question, but what you do with the answer is equally as important. Do you take the answer at face value and question nothing, or do you accept the answer and investigate everything? If you go to the second option, where you congratulations, you're on the path to developing strong critical thinking. Number 6, learn to investigate. At number 5, we mentioned the need to investigate answers, but here we are showing how you properly investigate every bit of information you find. The first step is to identify and evaluate every existing evidence you can find. Have you been in this type of situation or challenge in the past? How did you react? What did your experience teach you? Next, collect and analyze data, and this is where I outline the facts of the situation and what is fact means for you. And finally, take actions based on the conclusions from the investigations. Investigating situations rather than actions of impulse reduce your chances of making poor choice. Instead, it's shaping your critical thinking skills while also helping you to make better decisions. Number 7, identify patterns. Patterns are everywhere. You just have to be willing to see them. You can get started by trying to notice patterns around you, around your home, around your workplace, even with your friends. You can also identify patterns in your thought process. Trying to identify this pattern is sort of a brain exercise, and since you have to look beyond office load to see this pattern, is naturally develops your critical thinking ability. So next time you feel next to exercise your mind, focus your attention on something specific and try to find interesting patterns. And remember, you don't always have to find patterns. The thought process is just as important. Number 8, be a daydreamer. According to daydreamer. According to 2008 Stanford University of Bristol Columbia, the executive network, the region of brain processes with focus broken solving is also an area of brain that lies up during daydreaming. When you daydream, you create new complex words and interesting ideas. And usually when you daydream, is to imagine solve the difficult problem and realities has been before. You are stuck in traffic. Of course, you daydream about having ability to fly or being the fastest person alive. To constantly activate the executive network for brain that improves your critical thinking, is study suggests that you daydream as much as you can. So go ahead and learn. Spend your time creating fanciful situations and just see what it does your critical thinking a long term. Number 9, feed your mind. The human mind, just like a body in which lives, requires food to remain sharp. It's important to develop our information abilities. So how many do that? Whether stories, reading, strategies about reading mind, the kind of force you imaginative. Have you ever read fictional work with some sort of picture in your mind? That is your imagination at work. And one of the great way to feed your mind is through this incredible, powerful age of practice is an interesting way to clear your mind and how to manage your anxiety and stress. And if your mind is constantly noisy, it naturally becomes very difficult to think critical. And this is where meditation can help silence that noise. Number 10, be open to other points of views. Earlier in videos, we mentioned exploring other point of views. How about we give that a closer look right now? Most times, agreements happen because I'm not willing to accept person's point of view. But sometimes we also suffer with internal conflict simply because we reconsider with more average review. Now, if you stick to just one point of view, you are robbing yourself of the chance to explore situations from other angles. And that's all. You're also refusing a chance to learn more about the situation or challenge. However, when accept a lion's deserved point of view, you're imparting a critical thinking journey, which places this POVs side by side and helps you to see the pros and cons. So, in becoming open diverse points of view, you are simultaneously improving your critical thinking skills. Number 11, learn to form your own opinions. One of the most important points of critical thinking is to teach you how to think on your own. Critical thinking aims at helping to our opinions based on information that we've been able to collect. To form your own opinions, question your biases, assumptions, constantly feed your mind, think deeply and objectively, value strengths or weaknesses, and write important things down, and they will help you to properly articulate your thoughts. Number 12, identify the problem. Off the top, we have the last benefits of critical thinking. One of the core functions of critical thinking is problem solving. But before you can solve any problem, you can have to take the time to properly identify. Identifying the problem is just about knowing the exactly problem you have to solve. It's also about looking at the problem from deserved perspective and asking important questions. You can ask yourself stuff like, what is the cause of this problem? Why is it happening in these terms? And I am making any assumptions here. What is the different ways I can solve this problem? By answering these questions, you are bound to have a better understanding of the problem and how you can build a perfect solution. Number 13, learn to accept criticism. Some of And you know that comes the point, right? You can agree criticism is an attack rate at first and attempt to develop the person. But come on, you know that criticism isn't a bad thing. In fact, accepting criticism is a quick way to get better away what you do. Instead of seeing constructive criticism and attack on work your personality, learn to see an opportunity to identify the flaws in your work. And if a loophole mistake is discovered by correct, would mistakes happen again? Definitely not. But accepting criticism is not only there to us, it's just important to reflect and understand the fact of the criticism, and this can only achieve through critical thinking. Now, it's definitely safe to say that constructive criticism is a learning opportunity, right? Number 14, always self-evaluate. Self-evaluation is a test and just a way to find out your basis on forming your opinions or making a decision. Self-evaluation is the process of holding yourself up in identification. It helps you identify your thought process, current values, and most important is assessing your strengths or weaknesses and give your insight when you need to improve. And this self-evaluation requires a heavy critical and consistency, but and all you'll be so glad you did. Number 15, try creative writing. There's fine line between great writing and critical thinking, and if you're super pumped about developing thinking, then creative writing is definitely one more thing you should try. We also need to try it. I'm not so good with writing stories or poems. Well, that's kind of the point here. You don't have to be most talented creative writer. You just have to write. This is because creative writings helps your creative thinking. And yes, it's a greatest exercise to sharpen your critical thinking. So next time you want to sharpen your mind, try your hands at writing story. You know, you might just be the next Nobel Prize winner in literature one day. And as for the curtain call, we hope you gained an insight here today on how to become a better critical thinker. The great news is that this step work for everyone. You just have to be resilient and dedicated to work, becoming a critical thinker you want to be. and for sticking with us the way that we end a video. Of course, you are getting important. Number 16. Remember that critical thinking takes practice. Becoming a critical thinker takes time, and it's important that you always keep in the back of your mind. Why? Well, sometimes your decision might not eventually lead to success despite your critical thinking skills. We love to hold this cold heart. Good things take time, but great things take a little longer. Give yourself some time to get used to the process, and the results will be mind-blowing easier. And thank you for watching this video explore. So if you found it valuable, consider subscribing to our channels on joining us or communicating if you're still hungry for handbase this video for you to watch next, or have it through our website or more amazing contents. See you tomorrow. Oh man, wow, shit.